But we cannot wait any longer. The stakes are too high to sit idly by, which is why today I'm announcing the Republican-led China Task Force. And I invite the Democrats to join with us. There was one moment in time they said yes. A few months ago, they said no. I would say there was no more important time now to join with us together.
Well, that was House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California announcing the China Task Force that will investigate and make recommendations on how to combat threats from Beijing. And as he mentioned just there, that task force is made up of all Republicans, but not by choice. The Democrats refused to join. So how did something so important become so political? Joining us is a member of that task force, Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida. Congressman, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Good to be with you.
I think one of the things that's fascinating is what Congressman McCarthy said. Initially, this was a bipartisan effort, as it should be. This is a major threat to our country. You know that. You've been outspoken on that. Why would Democrats walk away from the table on this? I don't get it.
Well, this is all about politics at its worst. If there's anything that should cause the Democrats to put country above party, it should be China, the threat that's posed by China, the fact that they've covered up the origins of this virus, still deny us access, and in the words of their own leadership, seek to supplant the United States in a new world order with America subservient to China. And that is across the board, from students to military to right now they're buying up distressed companies in the wake of the coronavirus in key technology areas. To your point of why, it's all has to do with Joe Biden.
So I get that, Congressman, but Congressman, you run for re-election. I don't see how any party wants to be tagged as being weak from China. I mean, to me, this literally shouldn't be a partisan issue. And I don't know if I were a Democrat running for the House of Representatives that I want someone to say, I don't care about China. I'd want to look tough, too.
Well, they're sticking with the story that this is everything that has to do with China is a deflection of President Trump's failures to deal with Corona. And they don't, and now even I've talked to a number of Democrats who understand this threat and are livid at Pelosi's refusal to work with us here. This is about national security, and this is where you need to put America first and America's interests first, not politics. But that's the road they're going down.
Congressman, we spoke to Senator Cotton earlier in the week about this, but I know you've been outspoken as well about China's students coming to America to learn. I want to show you this graph. Over 369,000 students from China came to learn in the U.S. last year. Is this something that the task force is going to be working on at all? And how concerned should we be?
No, it will be working on this. I already introduced legislation to deal with it. I want to be clear. These kids are victims of their own government. A lot of the vast majority are good kids, but they are forced by Chinese law to vacuum up all kinds of research information and anything that the Chinese Communist Party asks for, they have to provide. We need to be aware of it. We need to stop it. And not only them, but there's actually American professors as well that my legislation and the committee will work to stop, that on the one hand are taking hundreds of millions of dollars in federal research dollars and then going to moonlight over in Chinese universities and handing that research and development that's so valuable to us right over to the Chinese military. And we are absolutely going to stop it with this committee and this legislation.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, Congressman. I mean, I don't think it's one thing to be a welcoming country. It's another thing to be a welcome mat. And right now,
well, Sean, I've already by my Democratic opponent for introducing this legislation. So they're going right to that tired old talking point.
I mean, this to me, it really does. There's a lot of things that I get in terms of taxes and stuff where we differ with the other party. But this is, to me, a no-brainer. This is something that should be a bipartisan thing, because I think we're going to look back in 20 years and go, oh, my goodness, what were we doing? What were we thinking? We let them in. We gave them the keys to the castle. I really do appreciate everything that you're doing on behalf of this country to wake people up to the threat. And it is a threat that we are facing. Right. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. We're about to talk with your state CFO and see what's going on down in Florida. I wish you a great weekend and stay safe.
You too, Sean. Jimmy Patronis is a great guy, and have a great weekend.
He truly is. Well, as we just mentioned, congressional leaders aren't the only ones trying to hold China accountable. States are doing the same. Most recently, Florida's chief financial officer, Jimmy Patronis, sent a letter to the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. demanding restitution for the cost paid by Florida. In the letter, he says, quote, "First, we are in the process of identifying Chinese-owned and controlled companies who have unclaimed property currently in the possession of the state of Florida. Second, pending payments from the state of Florida may be withheld as necessary to offset the debt of the CPC owes the people of Florida." I assume he's talking about the Chinese party. Here to talk about that process himself is the CFO of Florida, Jimmy Patronis. Mr. Patronis, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me.
I think it's really, we keep asking people every time they're on a show, you know, I get it. It's one thing to pound your chest, but what are you doing? You guys are actually doing something concrete. So let me ask you, do you think that you can pull off what you're trying to do?
Well, I sure hope so. We have identified a limited number of assets of what we have identified just through a Google search of what are wholly owned Chinese companies in our unclaimed property vault. We've got excess of $5 billion in it. And as we try to identify these companies, we need some assistance from the Secretary of State's office, Department of Treasury. They will be monitoring which companies are owned by the Chinese government or have an interest by the Chinese government. So let's start, attacking what we can and offering that up as a solution. Look, the Chinese government has not been transparent. They have not been forthcoming. The expense and loss of life that the state of Florida has been experiencing on this is wholly due to their negligence and lack of working with other nation states in order to try to make right on this. So, I mean, they should own the debt and the problems that they've caused to our country, and especially the state of Florida.
Jimmy, are you concerned at all that Florida's efforts to go after China might escalate the tensions between these two countries? Is this something that should be left maybe to the federal government?
So I think we're doing what we should do in the state of Florida. The state of Florida is the third largest economy in the United States. We're working hard to ensure that we're doing our part to make the job of the federal government a little bit easier. If we can offer up identifiable assets, because the ideas that the folks in the good state of Florida come up with, let's bring it to the table so we can give President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and he's doing a great job calling them out right now. He has spun it up. And anyway, he has inspired us to work that much harder to help him with their efforts.
Mr. Patronis, do you have a dollar figure on how much Florida has lost since the outbreak of this virus?
So here's some scary statistics. 127 million visitors came to the state of Florida last year. There's no way we're going to hit that. We have got airports like Orlando International that are down over 90% in payments. So when you throw those numbers into the mix, it's going to take a little while for this state to get back to its peak, that consumer confidence comes back to where it needs to be. We're going to see probably excess in just this last 45 days, over $700 million in lost sales tax revenue. And then the compounding effect. Disney alone is the single largest one location employer in the state of Florida. They contribute over $600 million alone in sales tax just in Disney. That's not including what their vendors and their employees spend once those dollars start having transactions.
Yeah.
Real quick, we are out of time, but the president said this week that well-run states should not help poorly run states as donor states. Florida obviously doing really well. Are you guys going to help any of these poorly run states? Yes or no, because we're out of time.
Absolutely, unequivocally, no.
All right.
I thought you'd say that. All right. Well, thank you for everything you're doing to keep China accountable, but also to keep the people in Florida safe. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We hope to have you back soon.
Take care. You're the best.
Well, that's always good to hear. Well, we have never seen anything like the case against Michael Flynn. You've heard what his former colleagues had to say. And coming up, we're going to give you our take on ending Flynn's prosecution. And later, did you watch the interview with Biden's accuser, Tara Reade? We're going to show you a clip. And here's the big question. Should Democratic voters continue to support his presidential bid with what we know now and the stance that they have previously taken on people like Kavanaugh? We're going to ask our company that and more when we come back.